What's up, Mix Nutters? It's your boy Marcus here, and today is our first Drinking with Friends episode. Here we talk to some friends about crazy stories that happen to them because of drinking. We're not against drinking here at the Mix Nuts channel, but we do like to bring up the fact that it does put you in some interesting circumstances. Our first guest is DJ Stokes. So go ahead, like and subscribe. Get ready for it. Drinking with Friends starting in 3, 2, 1.
Alright, so in the state of Illinois, way back when I was a teenager, in the state of Illinois, you couldn't get 2 moving violations within a certain amount of time, otherwise you automatically lost your license. I don't know if it's still like that. That was back in 2004 or some shit. What had happened was, I got really drunk, right? And I had a shift for work, like 40 minutes from where I lived, and I lived out in the country, so it was like nothing but highway, right? So the speed limit's like 55, 60, something like that, and I knew where all the cops were, and because I got really drunk the night before, I was like super hungover, so me being a teenager and having terrible problem solving skills, I was like, yo, I'm gonna try to get some McDonald's breakfast before I go into work at 8. And I know it takes me 40 minutes to get to work, and I'm gonna leave with 42 minutes. So the only way to get McDonald's breakfast is to speed the entire way.
Oh my god, so, you on X Games mode.
So I end up going like 100 or some stupid shit like that the whole fucking way. And turns out the cop's in the ditch, right? He's not in the U-turn spot. He's down on the other side of that U-turn spot, way down in the ditch. Can't see him coming from the direction I was coming from. So I start speeding back up, and then I start seeing the top of, like, the lights on top of this car appear. And I'm like, ah, shit. I knew I was fucked. Like,
surprise, motherfucker.
And I think I was back up to 80 something. Pulls me over, right? And I'm 19 at the time. I had half a bottle of vodka, I had in the back of my car seat, just out, like a half a fifth. And so the cop starts walking up to the car, and I turn around and I see it in my back seat just open.
It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
Right? I'm so drunk from the night before that I might even blow a small amount. Like, I don't think I'd be over the legal limit at all, but I was 19, right? 0 tolerance. So even if I blew like a .02, that shit would give me a ticket, right? So all I can think of is I need to get the officer away from the car, because if I just reach back there and cover it up, he's going to be like, oh, what were you doing back there? What were you hiding? Right? So I just leave it alone. Comes up to the window, and he's like, oh, yeah, you were speeding. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, so, you in a hurry? I go, yeah, I'm late for work, so just give me the ticket so I can be on my way. He's like, oh, you just want me to give you a ticket? And I was like, yeah. So he's like, okay, fine, I can do that, sure. Like, shakes his head and laughs and just turns around and goes back to his car. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, hey, it's better to take the fine for the speeding ticket than it is to get a ticket for having booze in the back of the car at 19, right? So as he's walking back to his car and he's got his back turned to me, I reach back and I put a hoodie over the bottle and then just sit there and wait for my ticket. I mean, I was in the wrong. I was speeding like a motherfucker. So I have no problem admitting that I was in the wrong there, right? Fast forward 2 weeks later, right? I'm going down this hill, and the speed limit's only like 30 on the hill, but it's super steep. So you have to ride your brake going down the hill in order to stay 30 miles an hour, which is what I was doing. And then at the very end of the hill, it kind of like flattens out a little bit, and there's like a little flat part at the end. And I like to just let off the brake and just coast to the stop sign. I do that, and when I do that, the car starts accelerating a little bit. So now I'm going like maybe 37, 38, in a 30, and I look over as I'm also reaching for my Nokia cell phone. I don't know if you remember that, the old brick. So I'm reaching for my cell phone, and as I'm doing that, I look over and there's a cop sitting in a driveway. The car started to accelerate. Boom, clocks me as the car's accelerating on its own. So it pulls me over, right? And in the state of Illinois, they're not on a point system or anything like that. So what happens when you get pulled over is they take your license and give you a speeding ticket, and you drive on your speeding ticket until you go to court for that speeding ticket. So your speeding ticket becomes your license, essentially, right? Not only did I get 2 speeding tickets in under a year, but it was 2 in 2 weeks. So now I'm in a dilemma, right? I have to fight it, otherwise I'm gonna lose my license. And this cop just tried extorting me, which I'm pretty sure is illegal. So I plead not guilty, right? And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm just gonna tell the judge what happened. Like, he tried to have me give him cash so that he could drop the ticket. I didn't have enough cash. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. As time goes on and it gets closer to the court date, I'm like, it's just me, the 19-year-old kid. It's my word versus the cop's word, right? And I've seen it in other instances, right, where people are arguing and they're like, I came to a full complete stop and he gave me a ticket for not stopping at the stop sign. All right, well, do you have any witnesses? No. All right, cool, pay the fine and the court costs, right? They always take the cop's word over your word, always. I gotta come up with something else other than this cop trying to extort me, right? So I do some research online and I find this website that's like, oh, beat a speeding ticket for $25 or whatever, like, pay this fee and we'll give you all these court cases or whatever. So I was like, all right, well, I got nothing to lose. $25 is pretty cheap to save yourself from losing your license, right? So I pay the $25 online, and download these court cases, right? And so it also comes with a script of what questions to ask the witnesses and the judge and all that, right? So I print the script, and then I print what's considered the key cases, right? Which are like national cases or whatever. And out 3 copies, so one for me, one for the DA, and one for the judge, okay? At this point, I run out of ink, and we are now, like, the morning of my court appearance. And I live out in the country, so, like, it's a 40-minute trip just to go to Best Buy to get some printer ink and come back, print out the stuff, and then drive back to the courthouse, which is, you know, I didn't have enough time. Didn't have time to print off what were called optional cases for each state that you lived in. Well, whatever, I got the key ones, right? I'm good. So I go to court, I have my mom drive me to court. I don't want to get pulled over for speeding on the way to the court. So I have my mama drive me to court, and I remember showing up, and the DA was short, like, Latina chick, super mean, man. She was like, oh, so what are you gonna argue? And I'm like, I don't have to tell you that. And she's like, oh no, you need to tell me. And I was like, no, I don't think I do. And she's like, no, like, you're supposed to tell me what it is that you're gonna argue. You're just gonna get up in the judge. And I was like, well, when it's time for me to go up there, I'll tell the judge what it is I need to say. She's like, no, you're supposed to tell me. And then at this point, because I read online that they might try to get you to say what your defense is gonna be, and you don't have to say it. She's like, no, you definitely do. And I was like, well, I don't know shit about the law, and the information that I read on this thing might be incorrect. So I was like, all right, well, maybe she's right. I was like, comes time for me to I get called up to, you know, argue my thing, and so I got my little folder, and I pull out, I had the script on the left side, and I had the 3 copies on the right, and I was like, all right, well, you know, I'd like to call Officer so-and-so to the stand, right? And so the officer's just kind of looking, and the DA's like, you gotta go up there. So the officer takes the stand, right? And I'm like, okay, so I got some court cases here that are gonna, show why this case should be dropped. Because at the end of the day, even though I didn't mean to speed, I just took my foot off the brake, I was still speeding. I know that. Cop knows that. Judge knows that. So the angle is not whether or not I'm speeding. The angle is whether or not the radar's been properly tuned. Because if the radar hasn't been properly tuned, then can you tell if there's even an accurate reading? The judge is like, all right, well, you need to give a copy to the DA. So I was like, okay. And I grabbed the 2 copies, and I walk up to the judge, and I hand her a copy of the court cases. And the DA's like, no, honey, that's me. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because I got one for you, too. And she's like, proceed to read the script that I have printed on the other side of the folder. And I'm like, well, based on so-and-so versus so-and-so, this happened with this, that, and the other. And I had called the cop to the stand, and I was like, did you, on the morning of such and such date, take the tuning forks and properly tune the radar before you went out? He just looks at the DA like, she's like, well, you gotta answer. He's like, no, I did not. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if you didn't do that, then, did you do this with the radar? Again, no, I did not. And so I was like, all right, well, based on these court cases and based on what you just heard here from the officer on the stand, you have no choice but to throw this case out. And so the judge, she's like, I'll tell you what, I'm impressed that you found this information. And she goes, if you would have had a court case from the state of Illinois, I would have thrown it out right now and here. I was like, fuck. I had an optional one from the state of Illinois, but I didn't have enough printer ink. I was like, so the optional one that I could have printed out could have gotten me off. Didn't work. So she's like, tell you what, if you would have had a case from the state of Illinois, I would have thrown it out right here and now. But since you don't, here's what I'm going to do. Because how old are you? I was like, 19, Your Honor. Which, if you ever go to court, these lawyers and judges and all that, they went to school for a very long time to be respected. So don't do this whole, sir, ma'am, just say Your Honor, all right? So I was like, well, Your Honor, I'm 19. And she's like, well, knowing your age goes through the trouble of doing all this research and looking up all these court cases and this, that, and the other. She's like, so, that's nice that you took the time to do that. So I'll tell you what, instead of you losing your license, because I found out you got another speeding ticket here. I was like, yeah. She's like, tell you what, I'm going to put you on 6 months court supervision. And, if you do those 6 months without getting pulled over again, I'm going to take them both off your record. But you still got to pay the fine. I said, deal. And that's how I got out of losing my license at 19. I don't know. Moral of the story is, do your homework. Moral of the story is, if you want to get out of something, you got to pay money. Moral of the story is, knowledge is power.